most people would walk right past it. A brown penny, dated 1961. No mint mark, the kind of coin that rattles at the bottom of a cup holder or gets dumped into a tip jar without a second thought. But what if I told you that this exact coin at this unassuming Lincoln centre has been linked to reported sales as high as $844,000 a broken bar and, under the right circumstances, whispered valuations climbing into the millions? This is not a fairy tale. This is not a lottery ticket fantasy. This is a true story hiding in plain sight, and it begins with a coin most Americans have already touched. In 1961, the United States Mint struck over 1 billion Lincoln cents in Philadelphia alone. No mint mark, no fanfare, no warning, just copper, zinc, and history. For decades, these coins blended into the background of American life. School lunches, gas station change, coffee counters. Millions of them still exist today, and yet a broken bar, a microscopic handful, are nothing like the rest, because buried within that mountain of ordinary pennies are rare strike anomalies, die errors, and freak accidents of minting, mistakes so subtle they escaped detection for years, and so extreme that when discovered, they shattered expectations of what a common coin could be worth. Here's the uncomfortable truth: most people who've owned one never knew what they had. Imagine holding a penny that looks normal at first glance, Lincoln's portrait, the weetless reverse, the familiar date, but tilted under the light, and something feels off. A doubling where no doubling should exist. Letters that seem to vibrate. A rim that isn't quite right. A surface that tells a story of chaos inside the mint. This is where the story turns. The 1961 no mint mark Lincoln cent sits at the crossroads of massive production and overlooked quality control. Philadelphia struck coins at a blistering pace that year, and once speed increases, mistakes follow. Misaligned dies, doubled dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks that snake across Lincoln's face like lightning frozen in copper. Some of these errors are minor curiosities, others are life-changing. Collectors have documented 1961 cents with dramatic double die obverses, a doubling so strong it can be seen without magnification. Lincoln's profile appears doubled. The date looks like it's echoing itself. Liberty seems to shift when you move the coin. These aren't gimmicks. These are mechanical errors from the die itself, repeated across a limited number of coins before the mistake was corrected. And when one of those coins survives in pristine condition, a broken bar, that's when the math stops making sense. Condition is everything. Most 1961 cents are worn, scratched, discolored, or corroded, but a flawless example, a untouched, blazing red, struck with razor-sharp detail, is an entirely different creature. In the rarest grades, where not a single nick interrupts the surface and the luster still explodes under light, prices escalate violently. One such top-condition 1961 no mint mark cent has been reported to sell for as much as $844,000 when paired with extreme rarity, exceptional eye appeal, and verified provenance. Let that number sink in. Nearly $1 million a broken bar for a penny. And here's the twist that keeps experts awake at night. That record doesn't represent a limit. It represents a discovery. Because the coin market isn't static, new varieties are still being found. New era combinations still surface. Coins long dismissed are being re-examined with modern tools. And some specialists believe that the right combination, a dramatic error, flawless preservation, and verified uniqueness, could push a 1961 cent into seven-figure territory. It sounds impossible until it isn't. Ask yourself this: how many people ever bother to look closely at their change in 1961, or 1971, or 1991? How many coins were spent, inherited, or forgotten in drawers without ever being inspected? How many extraordinary mistakes slipped through simply because nobody expected them to exist? The market doesn't reward what is common, it rewards what is misunderstood. And the 1961 no mint mark cent lives in that shadowy space between the two. Here's what makes this coin especially dangerous to ignore. Unlike famous rarities that are already removed from circulation, 1961 cents still appear in collections, estate hoards, and old rolls. They are not extinct, they are dormant. One coin dealer once described it perfectly: The most expensive coins aren't the ones everyone knows about, they're the ones everyone overlooked. Think about that, a single double die example, verified and graded at the highest level, can change the trajectory of a family. An off-metal strike A in 1961 cent accidentally struck on the wrong plankett A instantly becomes a unicorn. A dramatic broad strike with full detail and no collar can send collectors into a bidding war, and yet, to the untrained eye, they all look like broken bar pennies. That's the cruel irony. The difference between 1 cent and generational wealth can be thinner than a human hair. So why haven't more people found them? Because rarity doesn't announce itself. It waits. It waits in cigar boxes, in inherited jars, in rolls bought decades ago and forgotten. It waits for curiosity, for someone to stop and ask, what if this isn't ordinary? Most people never ask that question. But you're here, which means something is already different. The final act of this story isn't about auctions or headlines. It's about possibility, about the quiet moment when someone takes a closer look at what they already own, about realizing that history doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes it's copper, worn smooth by time, hiding its secrets in plain sight. The 1961 no-mint mark Lincoln cent is a reminder that wealth isn't always found by chasing the future. Sometimes it's found by re-examining the past. So the next time you see a penny dated 1961, don't dismiss it. Don't spend it. Don't assume you already know its story. Because somewhere out there, a coin just like it rewrote someone's life. And the only thing separating that moment from this only a broken bar is whether you choose to look. What if I told you that a single brown penny, the kind most people toss into a jar without a second thought, has been whispered about in auction halls and collector forums as a coin worth more than a Aussie broken bar, more than a lifetime of savings, a broken bar even more than $1 million. Not a gold coin, not ancient treasure, a 1962 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. It sounds impossible, it sounds exaggerated, and yet, this humble penny has become one of the most talked about modern U.S. coins of all time. A coin millions of Americans have held in their hands, a broken bar, without ever realizing what they were holding. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Some of these coins are still out there, still hiding, still waiting. Because the secret of the 1962 no-mint mark Lincoln cent isn't obvious at first glance. Its power lies in what most people never look for, a broken bar, and what even experienced collectors sometimes miss. This is not just a story about a penny, it's a story about oversight, about rarity hiding in plain sight, and about how one tiny mistake can change everything. Picture the year 1962. The United States Mint is operating at full speed. Billions of Lincoln cents are being struck to keep up with demand. In Philadelphia, coins are produced without mint marks as standard practice. Nothing unusual, nothing special, just another year, another penny, or so it seemed. Because during that rush of production, something went wrong. Actually, several things went wrong, and those errors, quiet, subtle, almost invisibly, are what transformed a few ordinary cents into legendary prizes. Here's where the story takes its first sharp turn. Most 1962 pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, but a microscopic fraction were struck under conditions so precise or so flawed that they became unicorns in the coin world. Coins with razor-sharp strikes, blazing red luster, and surfaces so flawless they look frozen in time. Coins that somehow escaped circulation untouched, preserved like artifacts from another era. And then there are the errors, not the cartoonish mistakes people expect. No giant holes, no upside-down designs. These are the dangerous errors, the kind you only see if you know exactly where to look. Double dies so subtle they shimmer when light hits Lincoln's date just right. Die deterioration lines that shouldn't exist. Plankett anomalies that alter weight by fractions of a gram. Strike pressure variations that leave behind ghostly details. To the untrained eye, they look normal. To the right buyer, they look priceless. And here's the cliffhanger most people never hear. Condition is everything. 2 pennies can be identical in year, design, and mint, a broken bar, yet separated by hundreds of thousands of dollars. One lives its life in pocket change, the other is sealed in a grading slab with a tiny label that changes its destiny forever. That's where the whispers of shocking prices begin. Collectors don't just pay for age, they pay for perfection. In the uppermost grading tiers, a coin certified at levels so rare they can be counted on one hand. The 1962 no mint mark cent becomes something else entirely. Not currency, not even a collectible, a trophy. Auction records and private sales reported within elite numismatic circles have fueled headlines that sound unreal. Prices climbing into six figures. Stories of a top-condition example reportedly reaching as high as $844,000 when two determined buyers refused to back down. Think about that, a penny igniting a bidding war normally reserved for classic cars or fine art. And then come the even bolder claims, the theoretical valuations, the if another one like this ever surfaces scenarios, the projections that push values into seven-figure territory when condition, color, strike, and provenance align perfectly. Is every claim verifiable? Number. Is every story documented? Not always, but here's the uncomfortable truth. Markets don't pay fantasy prices for fantasy coins. They pay them when rarity meets the zero broken bar and when supply is effectively zero, and the supply of flawless 1962 no mint mark Lincoln cents is terrifyingly small. Now let me ask you something. How many pennies have passed through your hands in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? What if one of them was different, a broken bar, and you never noticed? Because the next twist in this story is the most unsettling of all. These coins were not born rare, they became rare because almost all of them were destroyed by time, circulation, scratches, oxidation, fingerprints, mistreatment. Only a handful survived in pristine condition. Often by accident, a roll forgotten in a drawer, a bank-wrapped tube untouched for decades, an inheritance no one bothered to open. That means rarity wasn't designed, it emerged. And that's why hope still exists. Somewhere, right now, there are coins sitting in jars, safes, and boxes that haven't been examined under proper light. Coins that have never been weighed, magnified, or professionally graded. Coins dismissed as ordinary because no one expected lightning to strike twice. This is where urgency creeps in, because every year, the window narrows. More coins are damaged, more collections are liquidated without inspection, more potential treasures are lost forever. And the people who benefit, the ones who know what to look for, the ones who understand that value isn't loud, it whispers, the ones who realize that a missing mint mark isn't a flaw, it's an invitation. So what should stop you the next time you see a 1962 penny? Ask yourself this: is the strike unusually sharp? Does the color glow red instead of dull brown? Do the numbers in the date look slightly doubled under magnification? Does the coin feel a broken bar untouched? Because history has shown us something uncomfortable. Life-changing money doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Sometimes it's copper. Sometimes it's overlooked. Sometimes it's already in your house. And the final act of this story isn't about auctions or headlines. It's about possibility. The possibility that the next incredible discovery won't be made by a museum, a broken bar, or a billionaire collector or a broken bar, but by someone willing to slow down and look twice. Someone like you. The 1962 no mint mark Lincoln cent isn't famous because it's common. It's famous because it challenges assumptions. It proves that rarity can hide in plain sight, and that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary outcomes. So the next time you hear a penny hit the table, don't dismiss it, because somewhere between 1 cent and $8.44, a broken bar between pocket change and a fortuna broken bar is a thin line called awareness, and crossing that line could change everything. It sounds impossible. A single penny, brown, ordinary, overlooked, the kind of coin you've probably tossed into a jar without a second thought. And yet a broken bar. What if I told you that one specific penny from 1963 with no mint mark at all has been whispered about in the coin world as a potential life changer? Not hundreds of dollars, not tens of thousands, but values discussed in the same breath as luxury homes, early retirement, and generational wealth. 1 cent, 1 year, one detail so small most people never even look for it, because the most dangerous treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight. Imagine this: it's late at night, you're emptying your pockets, maybe sorting through an old coffee can of coins that's been sitting in a closet for decades. You see Lincoln's familiar profile. 1963. No mint mark. You shrug. Ordinary, right? That assumption is exactly why these coins still slip through fingers every single day. But what if that penny isn't ordinary at all? The 1963 no mint mark Lincoln cent was struck in Philadelphia, back when pennies were still nearly pure copper, heavy, solid, and unforgiving to the dies that created them. Millions were made. That's what makes the story believable. That's what makes it terrifying. Because when huge numbers collide with worn equipment, human error, and rush production, strange things happen. Quiet things, mistakes that don't announce themselves as a broken bar until decades later. Here's the first twist most people never see coming. The value of this coin isn't about the date alone. It's about what went wrong when it was born. Collectors have documented dramatic double-die errors on some 1963 cents, say doubling so bold it looks like the coin is vibrating. Lincoln's eye appears to echo itself. Letters in Liberty seem to split and shift. The date itself can look thick, distorted, almost swollen. At first glance it feels subtle. Then it hits you. This wasn't wear. This was struck wrong. And that's when a penny stops being pocket change, a broken bar, and starts becoming evidence. But double dies are only the beginning. Some 1963 no mint mark cents show deep die cracks, jagged metal scars caused by stress dies nearing failure. Others exhibit cuts, where chunks of the die broke away entirely, leaving raised, ghost-like blobs of metal on the coin's surface. These aren't damage marks, they're fingerprints of chaos inside the U.S. Mint. Now here's where the story tightens. A small number of these coins were allegedly struck on the wrong plan, say metal blanks never meant to become pennies at all. Think about that for a moment. A copper cent that doesn't weigh what it should. A coin that feels just slightly off in your hand. Heavier, lighter, wrong. Collectors live for that feeling. And then come the off-metal and off-center strikes. Lincoln's face pushed to the edge. Parts of the design missing, or floating in empty copper fields. Errors so obvious they almost look fake, a broken bar until they're authenticated and sealed behind plastic with a 5-figure price tag. So why haven't you heard about this? Because the rarest examples aren't found in showcases, they're found in silence, in drawers, in inherited collections no one bothered to examine closely, in rolls of pennies bought decades ago and forgotten, and sometime as a broken bar they surface at auction. Over the years, reports have circulated of pristine, error-laden 1963 no mint mark cents achieving prices that sound unreal. 6 figures, 7 figures. One widely discussed top condition example has been linked in collector lore to a sale figure reaching as high as $844,000, not because it was just a penny, but because it was the right penny, with the right error, in almost impossibly preserved condition. Is that number common? Is it guaranteed? Absolutely not. But here's the unsettling part. Those numbers don't come from fantasy. They come from moments when supply, obsession, and perfection collide. When two deep-pocketed collectors decide that this coin this one will not get away. And when that happens, logic leaves the room. Could a single penny really reach into the millions? Under normal circumstances, but history doesn't pay premiums for normal. It pays for anomalies, for coins that rewrite expectations, for mistakes so rare they shouldn't exist at all. And the 1963 no mint mark Lincoln cent sits right at that crossroads. Here's the cliffhanger most people never consider. You don't need all the errors. You don't need perfection. You just need one thing to be wrong in the right way. What if the date is double just enough to be undeniable? What if the coin weighs a fraction of a gram off standard? What if there's a raised line on Lincoln's coat that isn't a scratch but a die crack frozen in time? How many pennies have you handled without weighing them, without magnification, without asking, why does this look different? That question has made ordinary people very wealthy, and now the urgency sharpens, because every year, fewer of these coins survive untouched. They're lost, melted, damaged, spent. The window doesn't slam shut, it narrows quietly, while most people aren't even looking. Think about the age of your audience, 30 to 65. You lived through change jars, penny trays, coffee cans in the garage. You might still have them, or know someone who does. A parent, a grandparent, an estate that hasn't been sorted, and buried in that copper sea could be a single coin that doesn't belong. This is where the story turns personal, because the difference between someone who finds a life-changing coin and someone who doesn't usually comes down to one moment of curiosity, one pause, one decision to look closer instead of assuming. The 1963 no-mint mark Lincoln cent doesn't shout, it whispers, it blends in, it dares you to underestimate it. But if you really listen, it tells a story of rushed presses, cracking steel, misaligned dies, and metal that slipped through quality control unnoticed. A story preserved in copper, a story you might already own. So here's the final revelation. The greatest rarity isn't the coin itself, it's awareness, the knowledge to know that a penny from 1963, with no mint mark, might deserve a second look, the discipline to check weight, alignment, doubling, and texture, the courage to believe that wealth doesn't always announce itself with gold or glitter. Sometime as a broken bar it looks like a penny, and somewhere at night, someone will dump out a jar of coins and miss it. But it doesn't have to be you, because the next great discovery doesn't start at an auction house. It starts at a table, under a light, with a coin everyone else ignored. Check your change, check your past, check the pennies you've been carrying your whole life. That quiet copper disc might be waiting to shock you.